I'm Kyle Woolman, a freshman at the University of St. Thomas, majoring in environmental studies. This presentation focuses on using GIS to analyze Western United States economic growth trends. The Great American West may not be the unexplored frontier it once was, but a surprising amount of land is still relatively uncivilized. Half of the western United States is federal land, shown here shaded in green. The use and ownership rights of this land may be disputed between political parties, but it is home to some of the most beautiful, biodiverse, and wild places on the planet: Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, and Yosemite National Parks. The existence and preservation of these national parks depends on the continuation of responsible management and ownership. These federal lands are not all protected national parks. Some of the federal land is used for logging, mining, grazing, and drilling. This is necessary to fuel our non-renewable resource-dependent economy, but of course less than desirable in the eyes of an environmentalist. This is where the controversy begins. The ideals of the Old West are rooted in resource extraction. Those who see the Great American West as nothing more than a warehouse of raw materials believe environmental protection limits the economy, and see the resources as employment, income, and population growth. Some Old Western ideals tend to be concerned with extracting every last penny out of the environment for profit, leaving the land totally exhausted and tainted with a negative human impact. However, some Old Western ideology acknowledges the importance of preserving the environment and strives to find the balance between resource extraction and conservation. A new, environmentally minded demographic has begun to populate the West. This population may have brought microbreweries, hipster coffee shops, and expensive outdoor gear to the West, but they also introduced a new ideology. New Western ideals focuses on amenities and services rather than extraction. Wild areas are protected and conservation is prioritized. This focus is much more sustainable and, some would argue, promotes a more prosperous economy. The New West attracts tourism, outdoor recreation, small business owners, and high-quality labor. Employment, income, and population growth are still emphasized, similar to the Old Western ideal, but the New West lifestyle attracts a demographic rarely reached by the Old West: creative class workers. Creative class workers stimulate the economy and emphasize the advancement of a sustainable human existence. To gain further insights on Western ideology, I analyzed data layers using GIS. First, I identified the most isolated counties of the western United States. They are shown integrated with the connected and metro counties in the map to the left. The tension is strongest in these rural areas. This is due to the availability of resources and land. In rural areas, there is a choice to be made between wilderness area and a logged forest. In metro areas, the choice is already made, and a concrete forest has taken over. In the map to the right, I was able to show only the isolated rural areas to narrow my research field and gain a more accurate insight on the area. Also portrayed on this map are the national wilderness areas. These are shaded in green. I was able to then analyze the different attributes of the isolated counties data layer in GIS. First, I selected the counties where more than 10% of the land was labeled as wild. I then selected the counties where 0% of the land was labeled as wild, and compared the percent income growth, population growth, employment growth, and percent of the population who had a college education of these non-wild counties to the wild counties. This comparison yielded some interesting results. The areas of more than 10% wilderness had higher income, population, employment, and college education rates. Employment growth in wild counties is nearly triple that of non-wild counties, and the income growth rate is about 50% greater in wild counties. So, does environmental protection really limit the economy as Old Western ideals state? It appears not. According to my findings, communities near protected lands are successful. They're wealthier, more educated, and their job market is booming. This means the success of extractive activities and the Old West view is declining. New Western ideals are taking root and are proving to be successful. In accordance with this study, the future of the Western U.S. economy relies on the decline of extractive activities and the rise in amenity services and conservation. As out with the old and in with the new.